Welcome, dear friends, to another program here at Kardec Radio. Here we are, another week, another Spiritist Magazine program. Every week we meet and we briefly discuss one of the articles from one of the issues of the Spiritist Magazine. You can know everything about you want to know about the Spiritist Magazine by visiting spiritistmagazine.org. We have the ability to download the PDF version of the magazine to our devices. In my case, I download to the computer, which I share with you. You can also get the link to download the app of the Spiritist magazine, where you can, free of charge, download all of the issues of the Spiritist magazine. You have a contact form, you have an about form, you have the ability to like this Facebook page of the Spiritist magazine. And if you're able to do so, you also have the opportunity to donate. The Spiritist magazine is 100% volunteer based, but there are costs associating with this, having all of those resources where it's free of charge for everybody. So you can also write to spiritistmagazine@gmail.com, where you'll be in touch with the editor in chief of the magazine, and she's able to give you more information if you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to write an article, so on and so forth. That's the way to go. So today we continue our studies of the newest issue of the Spiritist magazine, which is issue 64. So the Spiritist magazine is published every quarter, and the most recent issue is this one you see here. And of course, you're watching, or now if you're watching this on demand, you are on YouTube, for example, or on Facebook videos, you will be looking at the screen of my computer that I'm sharing the PDF version of the magazine. If you're listening, I'm just sharing the magazine cover for the viewers, and of course for the listeners. I'll be scrolling up and down, where you can see here on the left side of um, the PDF, the little thumbnails that tells you the different articles of the Spiritist magazine. We've already discussed this one, educating a child, for example. We talked about nature in you. We talked about prayer of understanding by May May. We talked about Spiritist motto and prayer precepts of every hour by Andrea Louise. And today, Spiritist motto by Bezerra de Menezes. And today, we're going to talk about how to live in God. So, the first question for you and I is, what is God? Right? If we were to pick one of the Spirit's book here that are behind me, we would find that the first question of the Spirit's book is, what is God? As the supreme intelligent creator of all things. Many of us have different perceptions and definitions of God, of course, based on our upbringing and the many experiences of the many reincarnations we've had in our lives. So, for you, when I say how to live in God, what kind of God comes to mind, right? If we study the teachings of Jesus, you know that God is loving, God is kind, and God provides for you and I everything that we have, right? In the Genesis by Allan Kardec, the spirits explain to us that God is this the center of all the love that permeates into the universe. All the resources the divine providence provides us come from God, which eliminates part of our idea of God of a gentleman sitting on the sky, dishing out punishments or rewards based on our actions. So keep that in mind, as the psychologist Claudio Sinoti is the author of this article, and it was published and translated for you and I to enjoy. So we're going to get rid of the thumbnails so that we can. And I do this live with you so that I can give an idea that it's not hard. I'm just unable to look at you. I'll try to adjust the size of the screen, but it's all good. So this is the first paragraph that he writes. He says, the relationship between men and women of the world, that's you and I, and what has come to be called, quote unquote, God, has been present throughout the history of civilizations. Of course, right? As long as there has been new humans, we've had the idea of God um, in our lives. That's also very well reflected in the book Evolution in Two Worlds by Andrea Luiz. That's my plug for the studies of the evolution in two worlds that Kardec created that we did a few years ago. In his name, in God's name, in the most diverse denominations, so everywhere in the world where there's a religious organization, there's God. We find hymns, songs, rituals, worship, and offerings. So these are the things we do to adore and praise God for what we receive every day. And on the other hand, what do we have in our world? Wars, struggles, human sacrifices, mass exterminations, and destructions attributed to God, right? So we are complex beings. Now we know more. In 100, 200 years, we know even more about the nature of things. And slowly, as we grow and reincarnate and we evolve, we will remove some of the things we've used to do in the past, right? We still do hymns, songs, worship, we do offerings. Many people bargain, right? If you offer this to certain gods, you get into God's grace, and then we will continue to do well. And then when things don't go well, we blame God for things, forgetting that we are embedded in a network of divine laws. So then we decide to break those laws. There are consequences for breaking the law. Just as if you speed, you get a ticket, hopefully. So the order can be maintained. So he's going to go through the next, and I'm not going to be able to talk about each and every item here, but this is a teaser for you because we want to drag not drag, but draw your attention, drag your eyes to the Spiritist magazine. Then we want to draw your attention to the importance of knowing what has occurred in the past and, evaluate what's currently today, because today we're building the future. He talks about improved civilizations, representations of the divine, brought up conscious concerns about psychic dangers. There was a creation of rituals, was often an attempt to reduce the risks, right? So we have rituals, and then we are a little bit more blessed and we have less concerns. In them, we also find gods or demigods, if we wanted to call them that, present the anthropomorphic, phytomorphic, and zoomorphic and astral forms, right? Forms of humans, forms of plants, forms of animals. In ancient Egypt, for example, we have Amun as the sun god and Geb as the earth. Horus, Horus is presented with the head of a falcon and various other representations in rich mythological symbolism. Also, in the symbolic richness of the Orishas, we find an attempt to understand the transcendent. What goes beyond the capacity of the ego to conceive, which he established as an attempt to reconnect with the force of creative source of life. In the Spirit's book, the Spirits remind us that at the level we are at, go read the essay on question 100, all the way to question 113, that shows that at the level we are of imperfect spirits, we have a notion of God, but we don't know God. Who knows God? A master. Christ's spirits know God. But it's innate in us to attempt to reach God. So he's going to give you more examples. This is the beauty of reading the magazine. It opens our eyes to know that no matter where you are in the world, we're all humans. We're not better than anybody because we're spiritists, and nobody else is better because of their religion. And we have the opposite, right? Many have used religion as a means to exterminate others. So we have to be careful when we judge, when we jump to conclusions. Now I'm going to butcher this name, but we'll try. The Upanishads, the sacred source of Hinduism. I apologize to my Hindu friends. Preset Brahman as the creative, active force in the universe. Human consciousness will not be able to conceive of it, as we note in the verses. That which cannot be expressed in words, but by which words are spoken. That which cannot be thought with the mind, but by which the mind can think. It's a beautiful. Now he's going to talk about the Bible, which we may more familiar with. The Bible, the narratives, on the other hand, begin with the creation of the world and all of the beings that inhabit it. A tradition inherited from the Jewish people, it brings the concept of a special bond between the creator of the universe and his people, right? The covenants that God made with the people of Israel, for example. This God is unique, very important aspect of Judaism. God is one and often presents himself with human faces, or at least with his characteristics clearly present. The quotes faces of God, unquote, however, present very different aspects when we reanalyze the Old and the New Testaments. If in the Old Testament we see a God which is often cruel and even vengeful, capable of wanting to exterminate his own creatures, Jesus launches the face of a God of love and mercy, of a father who watches over his children. How many of us grew up saying, God is watching, God's going to punish you? And we say, when we go through a difficult time, we might even revert and be like, oh my God, why are you doing this to me, right? And that's what also in the reverse would be, if you do well, God rewards you. And if you work hard, God rewards you. So we are so complex that we have to remind ourselves that God, as brought to us by Jesus, the Master, the guide and the model, question 625 of the Spirit's book, who intimately in touch with God as a Christ Spirit, can tell us, a God of love and mercy, watching over us, his children. Do you feel, dear friends, that God is of love and mercy, that is watching over each and every millisecond, nanosecond of your life? Each and every little molecule in the universe is being watched by God. Do we really feel it? Because we know it. It's in the Spirit's book. It's in the Genesis, very specifically, when it talks about the universal cosmic fluid, how God can feel everything because we are immersed in the book. After Death by Leon Denis, it says of love is this creative force. It glues everything in its center is God. So intellectually, we can read all of these things, but do we really feel in our lives today, within within the circumstances we found ourselves in, that God really is loving and merciful towards me? Mind you, what other people doing doesn't matter right now. So towards me, in my heart, do I feel loved by God? I hope the answer is yes. Even hard for us to conceive. We don't know what God is, but we know the image that Jesus brings to us, right? The launches the faces of God, of love and mercy, watching over us, caring for us, giving us opportunities, allowing us to be reincarnated so that we don't go astray. And if we go astray, God is of mercy, allows us to do again. He says, neuroscience, especially since the 1990s, has begun to map the human brain in search of the point of God. Oh, excuse me. in the human brain. We want to look, where is the seed of God? Because it realized that the transcendental quest produced by certain effects, not activities, not states of wakefulness, of sleep. Even so, the days of reaching a consensus on the findings are far long gone. Because neuroscience, oh my God, I'm going to talk about myself now. As a neuroscientist, we want, that's my academic training and my profession. But aside from that, because it's not about me, it's about the article. We are very physical. We want to see things. We want data. We want data. But the only tools we have are the tools of the physical nature that we create to study, right? So, for example, we can't ascertain where this point of God is in the human brain because the physical human brain is controlled by a paraspiritual brain that is controlled by the spirit's mind, but neuroscience doesn't know that yet. But there's plenty of research. This shows that praying for others, the thinking of God, the having a religious, loving, kind practice is beneficial to beneficial to health. Also, that intercessory prayer works in the healing of others. So we are slowly building the building blocks in this world of trials and expiations to get to the point. Let's see what else he says. Many other religious expressions try to guarantee a monopoly on divine expressions. Right? Sometimes we do that, right? We think we're spiritists, God is what God is for us. But since the creature is unable to conceive of its creator, since the ego is unable to convince of what is finite, we're often left in the field of speculation and belief without being able to define exactly what is to live in God. Remember, that's the first question we ask. Do you live in God? What does it mean to live in God? Is it that I wake up every day and read my Bible and I quote paragraphs out of it, but I don't apply any of the teachings in my life? Or is it that I might not even know what's there, but I'm a loving, kind person. I'm merciful. I'm full of understanding, right? So interesting. Because I'm asking questions, I don't have all the answers. None of the hosts here have the answers, even though we look knowledgeable. But we are assisted by the superior spirits and inspired today to pick this article because we want to ask ourselves, the mentors inspire us to say, what it is for you to live in God. But in order for you to even imagine how it is to live in God, because I say here, we can't define exactly. We have to go back to the beginning, to the drawing board. I am a spirit. I am a creature. I was created. God is everywhere. God is merciful. God is powerful, right? And so on and so forth. Even when the Spirit's book presents God as, quote, supreme intelligence of the universe, primary cause of all things, the small egoic intelligence is unable to grasp all that it represents. As we sit here, we listen to this live or on demand on Facebook, on YouTube, the snippets on Instagram, we're subscribing, liking, and following everything so the word can be spread. So we can create a community that values the teachings of Spiritism, but also that shares it, that is proud of it. We can comment, we can support each other, right? Once you're here, supported by the love of God, you have your mentor with you, your family members have their mentors with them. That's mercy. 24/7 personal trainer of the soul, that's mercy. Us being reincarnated, mercy. Reincarnated in the conditions that we have, mercy. Because we have done so much of breaking the divine laws in the past that it's very merciful of God to allow us to have the current reincarnation that we have. So let's meditate. In the impossibility of, quote, living in God through specific religious definitions or creeds, which often only feed the persona, the social mask, but would do not delve into the deep questions of being It's essential to return to the old teachings of the Oracle of Delphi. Man, know thyself, with the extension often attributed to Socrates. And you know the universe and the gods. Know yourself and you know the universe and the gods. As we are the universe in miniature. Have you thought about it? You are the universe in miniature. Beautiful expression. You are a system and the universe is a system. What happens inside of you is very similar to what happens with the exchange in the universe. We all immersed, we all interact, we all affect one another. To the extent that we clear out our own souls, removing excesses and carrying out the necessary pruning, living in the depths of ourselves, we can be transformed in the possibility of living in God. So I'm going to cut this phrase, huge phrase, into two. Because let's think about, what do we want to clear out of our souls? What are the thought patterns, the physical patterns, the nutritional patterns, the social patterns we want to clear out, the spiritual abilities we want to develop? What are kind of excesses we want to carry? I'm not talking about the universal New Year's resolution of losing weight, which is very valid. The excesses, excess possessions, excess thoughts, excess worries, excess attachment, excesses of gossip, of hurting others. And how do we prune it? How do we prune ourselves? That's part of what we're here to do. Us as adults and those who are responsible for the new generations in the gospel according to Spiritism. That's this pruning is exactly what's in the gospel according to Spiritism, talking about the mission of parents. Let's not forget the valuable warning from the Mount established by Jesus. Quote, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Maybe then we'll be able to answer like Young when asked if he believed in God. Young answered, I know. Do we live in God? Do you believe in God? How is God showing up in your life, in your actions each and every day? Lots of food for thoughts, and we end up reading the whole thing because it's okay, we have an hour. But most importantly, I would like you to go ahead and go back to the Spiritist magazine, read this article, meditate upon it, have the conversations. I'll share something with you. If you said something like this to someone, they might look at you like you have three heads. It's very unique to be able to find someone with similar mindset, even a spiritualist, because a lot of us are spiritualists, right? To be a spiritualist, introduction to the Spirit's book, what you have to do is believe there's more than the physical, more than the material. Spiritualist, but to have a knowledge that you are soul, that you vibrate, that your thoughts matter, that your thoughts are things that you have, and you don't. It's very unique to know of those teachings all put together as in Spiritism. Reincarnation, a majority of people believe that something happens after you die, even though they can't explain what it is. Lots of religions believe in reincarnation. Mediumship is described in the Bible, so on and so forth. But a lot of us are living in this attunement with the physical, with the sensual, with the just feeling what's for the physical. I'll give you a quick example. If you were to meditate with this with someone, you can talk to them and don't need to even mention Spiritism, especially if they say they read the Bible. You can ask them, what is God? How's God showing up in your life? The other day I was meeting with a friend, which is rare because I like to bring friends in versus going out. But that's my prerogative. You do you. So we went out, someone who God put in my life, very spiritual, very nice, newer in my life. And as I was waiting for her to arrive, I was in a very noisy environment, as restaurants are noisy. And but there was enough of a commotion in the next booth that I was listening to people gossip. Their conversation as a family was who was um marrying who, not even in their families, friend. In the news, in the pop culture, as we call. Because star so and so is dating so and so broke up with so and so. Because the daughter of this famous person in this famous family with stars a K is doing X, Y, and Z. No judgment, even though it might sound judgmental. I was just listening to it as I was waiting and reading on my Kindle because people think we're on the phone, but the phone is neutral. You can put Kindle in it. I was reading the book Living with Jesus by Amelia Rodriguez by Divaldo, recently translated. I had to stop and think how many other families, booths were having the same conversation, feeding that. That's why it never goes away. That's why we're still thinking about that, because that's a conversation people are having at dinner. Instead of saying, why did we come together as a family? Why do we love and we annoy each other to death? What brought us together? So this is such a blessing to know that the families of today are are organized based on what we've done in the past and what we need to learn today. So that same soul that annoys you and you annoy them, you have a history together for millennia, probably. On this earth, that's how the unions occur. But no, they were talking about the celebrity dating situation. And no wonder that sometimes God has to shake us with some issues so that we wake up in our consciousness to think of, man, I'm in such a wealthy area. I mean, the United States has so much wealth compared to the rest of the world. That's where I live in Central Virginia. And yet, there's so many people within a 3-mile radius of where we were living in motels with their children, homeless. Many schools don't have the resources, and here we are indulging in celebrity gossip. That is not how to live in God, because God is not, first of all, God doesn't have a mouth, so God's not speaking, even though it's represented as speaking in the Old and New Testament. Spoke life, right? But it's not a judgment. We can talk about what's going on, but should we be more mindful and slowly switch to more in-depth conversations? Why the US? Why this country? Why are we together? How can we prune? And how do we prune? And beautiful. Let's prune. Let's develop our spiritual abilities. Those are beautiful words. But when we stop being selfish and we look around to see where can I be of service? How can my volunteer hours go to this or that cause that touches my heart? How could we have used the resources of the enjoyment to serve someone else? If nothing, just to be mindful and kind to the servers who are there working. So there's so many opportunities to live in God, because Jesus is our guide and model, never wasted time. This is a human thing. As a Christ spirit, he has not wasted time. So let's use our time wisely. And we can see from the gospels that he was always serving. Whatever he was, he was of service, so can you. So let's meditate on how to live in God this week. God willing, we'll be back with you next week. Until then, I hope you stick around at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our dear friend Carol Correa will be studying the divine laws with you, and I hope you can join her. A wonderful, loving soul here at Kardec Radio. I am signing out. This is Shane Martin from the Spirit Society of Richmond in Richmond, Virginia. I hope to see you next week.